Alright guys, do we have a treat for you today? We take an in-depth look at the new Hikmicro Condor series and the recent key upgrades. New Condor units will now support 5 GHz video transmission, which is fantastic news, especially for those looking for a thermal to remote mount and to also use by hand. This potentially puts the Condor in the running for the top spot, competing with the very few other 5 GHz models on the market at the moment, solving the interference issues we see with stereo systems and other devices inside vehicles where 2.4 GHz thermals can struggle. It's still early days, but it's looking promising. No more hard wiring or pulling the fuse on your stereo, only remote mounting magic and tunes banging all night, if that's what you're into. But that's not all. We cover the image quality in detail, comparing each model in unfavorable conditions, how to use the unit, navigating the menus, and much more. But we don't stop there. We go through absolutely everything you need to know about remote mounting your thermal. We cover all the mounts and brackets on the market for quickly attaching and detaching your thermal from your spotlight or directly to your handle. We go over all the different powering options, including how to wire up 2 switches on your handle so you can turn your light on and off while still powering your thermal. Then we take a look at some of the most popular ways you can mount a tablet or monitor in your ute or buggy. We compare the pros and cons of using your thermal wirelessly to a tablet or hardwiring it to a monitor. This way you can decide which method suits your needs. And lastly, we take a look at different handles and spotlights on the market, discussing some pros and cons of smaller and larger lights, as well as the differences between 12 volt and 24 volt halogen and HID and LED lighting options. If at any point during the review you want to skip through to the segment that you're most interested in, you can take a look in the comments and the description to see where you need to skip to find the information you want. Before we do though, a little plug for ourselves here. We sell everything you need to remote mount your thermal, from all the brackets to go to your lights, to the tablets, the monitors, the wiring, and the mounts for inside your cab, all the way through to a huge range of spotlights and remote handles. We have absolutely everything you need for remote mounting all in one place. You even get good discounts if you buy it all with your thermal. We price match and can have your order on your doorstep Australia-wide within 2 to 4 days. We test all the thermals on the market as well as accessories and have experience to give you the right information to make the best choice for your needs. Give us a call for advice, drop into our store, or visit our website. We'll be glad to help. While we are comparing each model's image quality, I want to discuss with you how temperature and humidity can affect the image quality on any thermal and why the millikelvin rating has become so important. This is particularly true in the hotter months or when there is a lot of moisture in the air. From now on, I'm going to be putting the temperature information on my recordings so you can see whether they are recorded in favorable or unfavorable conditions. Most of my previous reviews were done in the winter months in favorable conditions, meaning the image quality was likely the best it could be. Many of my up-and-coming reviews are done in summer months in unfavorable conditions, so it's important to understand this if you're comparing recordings from one thermal to another that might be recorded in summer versus winter, for example. This could result in you being misled into thinking one is better than the other. What I've found to show real-world differences in quality between different brands and models is the millikelvin rating combined with the image algorithm and the processing power of the unit. This appears to me to determine the overall image quality. Generally speaking, the lower the millikelvin rating, the better the image quality and better they perform in tough conditions such as high humidity. Bearing this in mind, the images you are watching right now are recorded in unfavorable conditions during summer. but because of the 20 millikelvin sensor, it's still producing surprisingly exceptional image quality. These are also recordings, meaning the image you typically see through the thermal are slightly better than this. We just viewed recordings done with Hikmicro's Zoom Pro feature turned on. This attempts to improve the image quality when you zoom in. In my opinion, with Zoom Pro turned on, it certainly improves the image quality and makes it easier to identify the animal in most cases. So a big thumbs up from me for this feature. Now, in most cases, if you are remote mounting and hunting a broad range of different types of country, you would go for models with a wider field of view, such as the CH25L or the CQ35L. If most of the time you hunt massive open paddocks that are kilometers wide, you could consider the CH35L and the CQ50L, which both have a narrower field of view but punch out to longer distances. Now, these models can still be remote mounted and work just fine, but will be more frustrating to use, especially in country with a lot of timber and obstacles close to you. So for most people, the CH25L and CQ35L make the most sense for remote mounting and even use by hand, allowing for quicker and easier scanning. Making a decision on what thermal is right for you really does come down to how you plan to use it. There's thermals that are better for remote mounting over wireless or hardwired. There's thermals that are better for handheld use if that's your main use for it, and so on and so forth. So for the best advice to make the best decision, give us a ring. Alright, so we're out tonight testing one of the very first Condors with 5 GHz Wi-Fi to be able to solve the interference problems we've been having, and so far so good, but I'm about to show you it all. And I've got it mounted on top of a Wild Game Innovations bracket with the new Wild Game Innovations quick release and the new 7-inch power beam bracket here. Now that can be removed, so you can remove the whole light from the roof, or you can just take the thermal off the roof. And I really like this setup. With thermal, you don't need a big light anymore. It's a very comfortable, balanced setup, so the weight is distributed straight down the center. Very comfortable to use, and plenty of brightness for what you want to do once you get close to the animal. Alright, so I thought I'd show you the brightness of the light. Just a little 7-inch halogen, nice cheap little light, and very comfortable to use. And look how bright it is. Most people are not going to need to see further than that. First up, we're going to compare the image quality looking through the thermal versus what you get on the screen. Let's take a look through the thermal and see what the image quality is like. As you can see, looking really good. It's a bit cooler now than when I did the first image test. Now, if I just drop this rangefinder down, we'll get a reading on this cow. It's about 85 meters away. Just going to zoom in a bit here just to try and take in the quality. Ignore the lines, that's normal because I'm recording it with another camera. Then we're going to go inside and compare this to the image quality on the tablet. So comparing the image quality degradation over the wireless connection. Alright, that looks bloody really good. Some of the best I've seen. Very impressed with the image quality coming over wireless. The 5 GHz definitely helps with this. So with 5 GHz, we're able to transmit a higher quality image as well as avoid the interference that we get on 2.4 GHz from things in the vehicle like the stereo system. As you can see, the stereo system's on. Good clear quality on the trees, the cows, everything. So that's a good quality image coming through there. Alright, as you can see, moving it here across the paddock. Just having a scan around. We're not getting any lag, and the image quality is quite exceptional. It's really hard to record this with another camera, so it looks better to my eye than it does on the camera here, but it looks bloody good still. Now I'm going to give it a good flick back and forth. We've got no lag or delay. That's really good. So even the image is keeping up with me turning the handle back and forth, and we've got no lag or glitching whatsoever. Now this is the first test unit, so I think it'll get even better from here as they refine the algorithm for the 5 gigahertz range. So this is a massive improvement with the interference in the vehicle, and the image quality is better too. So not only is it not affected by the interference, the image quality is better. I'd say about 95% as to what you see through it. And we'll have another look again here in a minute. So we might lock it onto this cow here and we'll have another comparison. Cow's sitting down now, but you can see the quality in the ground and the timber and the trees and the cow there laying down. Very, very good. We'll go back inside the cab. Right, as you can see, it looks pretty much exactly the same to me. I can't really tell the difference between what I was seeing through it and what I'm seeing on the tablet here. It is really good image quality. So I've been complaining about these issues for a good 2 years now, and they've finally done something about it properly. So you won't need to remove your stereo fuse or deal with interference issues anymore with the 5 gigahertz range. All right, as you can see, image quality is really good. Just thought I'd give one more look at these cows here. Now we'll just do a range find there. And those cows are roughly 91 meters away. You can see the detail on the cows still. It's hard to capture with this other camera filming this, but it's really good for a Wi-Fi connection. So we'll go for a bit of a drive now, see what I can capture before we move on. But as you can see, as I'm driving along here and hitting the bumps and whatnot, you can see the vibration coming through the handle, okay? Now, I'm not seeing the really bad motion blur that we see with some thermals. So see how even though it's vibrating, I can still make out what I'm looking at pretty comfortably. So, yeah, look, I'm very impressed so far. All right, you'll see here we've got some kangaroos. They are at 186 meters, these kangaroos are. Now this is with a CQ35L, the Condor with a wider field of view. Picked them up straight away, no problems whatsoever. So we'll keep going and see what else we can find. All right, thought I'd take a look at the cattle here, get some image quality of them close up. The thermal's not focused in for this distance, but it still looks really good. I checked this image quality out. I'm floating along here. It's hard to film with this, but coming down the big hole here. Whoop, whoop, yeah, hang on. No glitching. Very, very little to no motion lag. The image quality is really good, and I'm driving like a rally racer. Prior to testing this version, I actually tested the 2.4 gigahertz version, and though it worked really well, I didn't have much good to say about it in regards to interference, as you'll see. Alright, unfortunately we didn't see much wildlife apart from cows and a couple of roos, but I'm going to poke on through town and show you that we get no interference even in town. Every other thermal that I've tested driving through this particular part of town going home has always made the thermal glitch, so this will be very good. The only exception to that was the pulsar telos. So it seems 5 gigahertz for the win. As you can see, we're not getting any glitching or lagging. Driving past many other Wi-Fi connections in town here. Right, now this is the street where we see the lagging happen, mate. Really close to houses, lots of Wi-Fi connections, and we're not getting any freezing up or lagging whatsoever. Now that's impressive. With the amount of interference that's in this street is ridiculous. But anyway, I'm going to call it a win on this one, mate. Right, so this is with the 2.4 gigahertz model. And as you can see, it's freezing up. Completely frozen there, and then it'll just take off and go crazy. And now this is with heaps of Wi-Fi connections around in town. So yeah, there it goes there. So now it's catching up, now it's frozen again. So this is solved now, the interference issue with the with the 5 gigahertz solution. So it's, as you can see, I'm spinning the handle and it's not even moving at all. Now this is with the stereo on. As we know, there is things that will interfere with a thermal within a vehicle, and one of them is a stereo can have an effect on your thermal. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove the fuse and see if it fixes the problem as it does with some other thermals. Now let's pull the fuse on the stereo and see if it improves the experience. Stereo is off. Now with most thermals we see a great improvement when the stereo is turned off. Now as you can see, we've got a better experience already, and we'll see if that maintains over a longer period of time. So we've got some kangaroos there, kangaroos out there. For most people, if you're able to figure out what's interfering with your wireless connection, it can be resolved by removing that interference, such as the stereo. Before we unplugged the stereo, we couldn't use this thermal at all. It was completely unusable with the fuse in the stereo. Now for your vehicle it could be something else, can also be phones and other things. If you're able to remove whatever is interfering, you should have a much better and more stable experience. As you can see, thermals that operate on the 2.4 GHz are more susceptible to interference problems. That's why the 5 GHz upgrade to the Condor is going to be beneficial to people wanting to remote mount it. If you prefer, you can also hardwire the Hikmicro Condor to a monitor using one of our kits. We've been doing hardwired kits for over 2 years now for all the major brands on the market. Pretty much the only brand that doesn't currently support hardwiring is Pulsar. Keep in mind, you can't hardwire to a tablet, it needs to go to a monitor. I just wanted to add another point here. We have got rumours that some thermal brands are looking to make it possible to hardwire to a tablet, but at the time of recording it's not possible, but we hope to see it in the future. The Condor performed very well hardwired with amazing image quality, indistinguishable from what you see through it. The pros are you remove any potential wireless issues and you get the best image quality. The cons, well, you have to run more cables, these cables can get damaged, and you lose control over the thermal itself. On a tablet you can use the controls via the screen, where you can't do this with a monitor. For the Condor at least, you can connect your phone to the thermal at the same time and use it like a remote to zoom in and out, record and so on. This gives you the best of both worlds. This is also required if you want the rangefinder to show on the monitor. You will need to re-engage the rangefinder every 60 seconds as they don't have an always on feature yet. I've been suggesting this feature for quite a while, but they just haven't gotten around to it yet. Overall, the Condor performs very well wirelessly and as a hardwired unit. It also works great via hand, giving you the versatility to use it the way you want. Before you can connect your thermal to your tablet or phone, you will need to come into the menu system and turn hotspot on. So we'll turn it to hotspot and turn it on, and you'll see the password there. This is where they must be going to store the password now. Instead of it being the serial number, this is where you can find it. We go down and it'll take us to another lot of menus, and here you'll see the hotspot band. We can actually change it between 2.4 GHz and 5 GHz, and you definitely want to use 5 GHz if you're remote mounting. Alright, once you've turned on the Wi-Fi inside your thermal, you can go to the settings on your tablet, go find where the Wi-Fi connections are and connect to the Hikmicro connection there. Now this may come up and say no internet available. That's perfectly normal, and the password is now going to be listed inside the thermal itself. So if you go through your menu system, you'll see the password there. If not, it'll be this serial number here. So starting from EA, that will be the password if it's not listed in your menu. If you have a device that has a SIM card in it, you will additionally need to turn off mobile data. If you don't do this, it can cause connection issues with your thermal. Either it won't connect or it won't stay connected. This applies to pretty much all thermals on the market. The tablet or phone that you're trying to connect to gets confused about why you're connecting to a Wi-Fi connection that doesn't have internet. So what it does is switch back to mobile data, causing connection issues. So what you can do is you can either go in here and just turn mobile data off for the entire phone, which is the quickest and easy way, or you can find the app settings on your phone and turn off the mobile data just for the Hikmicro site app. For example, here we have the Hikmicro site app. I open it up and I can turn mobile data off just for the app. The only problem with doing it this way is if you try and do a firmware update later, the app's not going to have access to the internet to be able to do the update. So you may need to come back in and turn mobile data back on. So don't forget about that. If you're having issues, don't forget that you turn mobile data off. Now, once you're connected to that and you've downloaded the Hikmicro site app from your app store, whether it be on Apple or on a Android, so the Play Store if you're on Android, and then you open up your Hikmicro site app, and there it is there now. Now I'll turn him up like that. So we've got home down the bottom, which is where you'll find all your devices, media, which is where you'll find your saved videos, your recordings, and me is just where you'll find information about your HIC profile. And then we've got some other options here which require an internet connection, which most people won't use. So our main options will be home and media. Now we come in here, now you'll see that we've got a device here now that we're connected to. Now when you first connect up, it may not pick it up straight away, and the app will try and take you through some troubleshooting in that. And all you got to do is swipe up, close the app down, right? Make sure that you are connected to the Wi-Fi, as we are here now, and then open the app back up. And then it'll automatically pick it up and show live view. Okay, so when you first set it up, it might not pick it up automatically, so closing down the app will reset it and pick it up for you. Now we can click on album, which will show us the different options for this particular device. So this will allow us to see the recordings that are saved on the device, and as you can see, we've got none saved on this device at the moment. And then we've got local, which is all the devices saved on the app, and we can also store stuff on the cloud. Going back again, we can register the device and we can see product information. Now this is an important part that you might find helpful, which will give you the serial number, the firmware version, and so on. And this is also where you can check for upgrades. You will need an internet connection. Alright, so you just hit the check for upgrades button once you're in here, and when you're connected to the internet, it'll check for an upgrade for you and download it. I'll have to show you how to do this upgrade later, as I don't have an internet connection right now to show you. And the part that everybody wants to know about, obviously, is if you hit live view, then it brings up the view to your camera with all the controls, so you can control it, and you can turn it sideways and make it bigger as such and mount it up on your dash or wherever you want to mount it. Alright, so we've got some kangaroos out here, but I'm going to show you quickly all the different features of the Hikmicro app here. On the right hand side, we actually have a big bar down the side, which has different options that we can use to operate the thermal. So at the top here, we've got our laser rangefinder button, and we press that and it will start ranging. So it's ranging these kangaroos out. They're roughly 98 meters, and that will range to that little square. So where that square is sitting is the measurement it's going to get. Then we go down, we've got a manual calibration. So if we press that, it'll do an image calibration just to clear that image up if you need to. Then we have palettes. We press this and this will allow us to switch between the different palettes. We've got white hot, black hot, fusion, red hot. White and black hot are the most common and most popular. We'll just switch it over to black hot there just to see what it looks like. Now we're going to move on down, and we've got our zoom button. So if we whack that, now we can drag this little ball down the bottom here, and when we let go, it's going to zoom into 7 times. So that's out to 7x zoom there. And then we go down and we've got our contrast to be able to change the contrast and then the brightness if you want to fiddle with that. But for most situations, the default is the best anyway. Down the bottom here we have our recordings. That allows us to bring up our recordings so we can preview what we've seen before and save it to our reel. So we can actually save, once we're in here, we can download or delete videos from the app. So download would save it to our photo reel. And then up the top here we can switch between record mode and photo mode. So if I whack that, we go to photo mode and the button becomes white so we can take photos, and press it again and it goes to red for recording mode. Alright, let's take a look at the Condor a bit closer up and see what it's all about. So first we'll take a quick look at what's in the box. So your thermal goes there, you got a charger, and you get 3 batteries. So 2 batteries in the case here and 1 battery inside of it. And you also get this box that has a bit of stuff in it. It has your cable and your manual and stuff like that. Alright, let's take a look at the thermal itself and discuss how it operates and some of the key points. First up, we got a rail on the bottom here. Now that doesn't come with it. That is an aftermarket thing made by Hikmicro to suit the Falcon for people that want to remote mount it. So it gives it a little bit more support around the curve on the thermal, which is great news for people wanting to remote mount it. Now obviously the battery's in the front here. You twist that and pull it and your battery comes out. Now I do prefer the Nightcore batteries. They do perform better in my opinion. So that's what I'm using in my unit here. Now this is a CQ35L. I think it's the best all-rounder in the series for remote mounting. Got a nice wide field of view, the 640 sensor, 20 millikelvin and all that. So I think this is one of the best all-rounders, which means it's going to be quite a useful unit in open country and thick country as well. The main difference between this and the Falcon is it has the rangefinder built in, so which can be very handy for, particularly for shooters, to be able to get a distance on the animals that they're trying to get close to take out. It's much more useful than you might think. Now let's take a look at the button placement. So at the top here we've got our zoom button, our palette button and our rangefinder button, and then we also have our power on and off button. Now this will also allow you to put it into standby mode when the unit's on. Now this unit does have an auto off feature, whereas if the device is laying down or something like that, it'll automatically turn off. I don't like that. I went into the menu systems and turned it off so that I'll put it in standby mode if I want. Otherwise it just annoys me. If you want to take a recording when using it by hand, you can press and hold the rangefinder button here to start a recording and the same to stop. Single press will engage the rangefinder. Now there is different options in the menu to adjust the rangefinder frequency and so on. We will discuss that later. And here we have our palette changing button. Now single press on this will cycle through the different color palettes. And if we press and hold it, it'll open up the menu system on the side. And then you can use these 2 buttons here to go up and down through the menu, and a single press on the palette button to enter a menu or to make changes. And that's basically how the button layout works. Now at the front here, we've got our focus ring. So if you want to get that nice and focused in, you adjust that. And at the other end here, we have our adjustment for our eyes. Now on the other side here we have our charging port on the side, which is good for remote mounting people because it won't be underneath and getting in the way, so it'll be up on the side, which is great. And in the strap over here we actually have a magnet in there, so you can pull your lens cap off and stick it to the side here, and that's out of the way then. Now one complaint we have had for people using this by hand, it is a good unit for use by hand, but some people have been complaining that the lens cap can fall out a bit too easily, and some are worse than others. So if your lens cap is falling out just by shaking it around or whatever, then it's likely you might need to get a new one. It does fall out pretty easily, but it should stay in there with normal use. And then some people have been saying that they don't like this strap here. They think it could be better quality. But apart from that, I think it's a good all-round unit for people wanting to remote mount or use by hand. So good unit to consider. Now the battery run time on these isn't that great. So they do take 18650s, which is awesome. So no internal batteries. Now battery life on Wi-Fi at least, you'll only get around that 2 to 3 hours out of each battery. So with the 3 that come with it, you get around that 6 to 8 hours. Now they do claim a lot more than that on the paperwork, but that's because they're including the entirety of the 3 batteries as the battery life. So they give you 3 batteries, they say it's going to last 11 hours, but that's if you use all the batteries and you don't have Wi-Fi engaged and stuff like that. So that is a bit of a con, but it's also a pro at the same time, because with a lot of units, they have proprietary batteries made by the manufacturer. So if they ever stop making the battery, then you're not going to be able to get new ones in the future. Whereas with units that use 18650s or similar, you're always going to be able to get these because so many devices use them. It's very unlikely they'll ever stop manufacturing them. Anyways, that's about it. If you have any more questions, feel free to give us a buzz. Alright, so we're going to take a look at the menus inside the Condor. Now, Hic has actually changed all their menu systems on some of their older models. So the Falcon menu system has changed, and all their new release models will have this style of menu system as well. There'll be subtle differences between them, but for the most part, the menu systems will be very similar across most Hic products. All right, so we press and hold the palette button and our menu comes up on the side. Now, our first option is brightness and then contrast, and we can use our arrow buttons to go back and forth, which is the rangefinder button to go up and the zoom button to go down. Okay, and then if we want to make a selection on a menu item, we press the palette button and it'll open up that extra setting, and then we can use our up and down arrows to make changes. Now for contrast and brightness, usually leaving it on the default value is the best. Now we have picture-in-picture mode, which will just show a zoomed in image of what you're looking at in the top of the screen there. Then moving on, we have Zoom Pro. Now Zoom Pro is quite good. I've tested this out and you will see it in the image review. It uses computer algorithms to smooth out the image and make it clearer to identify an animal at a further distance. So for most people, you probably want to have Zoom Pro turned on. Now moving down, one of the things that Hic has changed is they now have another menu system here. So we go Advanced Settings, and then inside this Advanced Settings, we have a whole new set of features. Okay, so let's start with Image Pro. Now once again, Image Pro is a algorithm style enhancement, a bit different to Zoom Pro, but it's their attempt at what they think will be a better image overall. I prefer to have this off at this point in time. And then we have our tone, so this allows us to change to a warm color or a cold color. Most people will use the cold color, but warm can appeal to some people that are used to that color pattern. Then we go out of that. Then we have our sharpness. Now, from what I understand, this is similar to contrast, but it sharpens up the image. So you can play around with all that and get the image how you want it. And now we have our scene mode. So we have recognition and jungle. Now, for most people, recognition is the setting to use, but play around with it. You might find potentially, I haven't played with it enough in different conditions, but you might find that jungle may work better in certain situations. All right, now moving down, we have our rangefinder settings. Now if we click our palette button to open up the options in here, now in here you'll have the option to close as to turn it off. Once we'll just do a single rangefind when you press the button, and then continuous will continue ranging all the way up to 60 seconds depending on what you choose. Now unfortunately they don't have a continuous always on range finding mode. I've been asking for that for quite some time and they still haven't done it, so I don't know if they will do it. Now the reason that we would like that always on range finding option is for those that hardwire this thermal, will be able to see the range finding on the screen without having to keep turning it on every time it turns off. It's difficult to use the range finding function on a hardwired setup if you're remote mounting it. At this point in time, you'd have to connect your phone to it and use your phone like a remote to operate the rangefinder. Now moving down, we have our hotspot. Now if you're using it remote mounted or you're connecting it to Wi-Fi on a tablet or phone, you want to have hotspot turned on. Now as always, whenever you use hotspot on any thermal brand, you want to make sure that you turn mobile data off on your phone or on your tablet if it has a SIM card in it. Now you can either turn mobile data off altogether or you can go into the app settings within your phone settings and just turn off mobile data for that app. The only difference between the menu systems on the new Condor version that has 5 GHz is the Wi-Fi settings at the moment. So you can come in here and you can actually change between 2.4 and 5 GHz. And you definitely want to use 5 GHz, especially if you are remote mounting. And the password will now appear in the menu system, as you can see it there next to the hotspot option. So if we turn hotspot on, we will see the password there. So the Condor actually has built-in audio and it's not too bad as long as you're whispering. Certainly if I was talking as loud as I am now, it wouldn't sound very good. But most times when you're out hunting, you're not yelling anyway. So it's okay. It does the job for simple social media stuff, but it's still not that great. Alright, I'm just here now. I'm just doing a bit of an audio test. I'm just talking quietly, not too loud, but not whispering either. Alright, so I'm just whispering here now, just a little bit. Nice and quiet. Got a big boar over here. And then I'm going to talk quite loud, like a general conversation I'm having with somebody, and see what it sounds like. Now auto screen off will turn the screen off when it tilts down or to the side to a certain amount of degrees. It'll turn the screen off. Now personally I'd have this turned off. It doesn't really save that much power when your screen goes into standby mode anyway, and it can be annoying in certain situations. So that would be user preference, that setting. Now hot tracking, once again, most people won't need to use this. That will just put a target on the hottest spot that you're currently looking at. We've got even more sub menus now. So we're in one sub menu already and now we've got another two. So we've got function settings. Now when we go into here, we have our OSD, our brand logo display, and we have our USB connection type. So if you go into this, if you're trying to use this to a monitor, you will need to change this over to analog. So that'll send out the video signal to your monitor if you're doing a hardwired setup. And if you want to download footage off the thermal, you need to have it on USB flash drive. Then moving on, we have our FFC image calibration options. Now, from nearly everybody will use this in auto mode, but you can change it to manual or external. Then we have our dead pixel repair here. Now, this is where you can come in and do a repair, and you just move your little crosshair around to wherever you have seen a dead pixel, and you single press on the palette button to change between X and Y, and use your arrow buttons up and down to go to the pixel. And then to make a correction, you press twice to correct. And then once you're done there, press and hold the menu button to go back out. Now going down, we have burn protection. I suggest everyone have this on, but you can turn it off if you wish. Alright, now to go back out of a menu, you can press and hold the menu button and it'll take you back to the previous menu. Now we want to go down to general settings here, and we'll single press on that. And then in here we just have some basic settings. We have our language, date and time, and our unit, so we can have it in meters or yards. And then we have auto power off, so you can have it so it turns the thermal completely off after a period of time. And then we have our restore. The restore feature will just take the unit back to default settings and clear it. Clear out any old settings. You want to do this after you do a firmware update, just to make sure nothing is left behind from the previous update. And then lastly, we have version. Now, if you ever need to get your serial number or build information on your firmware when you're troubleshooting, this is where you can get it from. Now, we're going to press and hold the menu button to go back out, and that's it. So now we're back at one of the main menus. So we want to press and hold again, and that'll take us back to the previous menu, and then press and hold again to close the menu down completely. So this will be the same menu system across the majority of thermals and night vision from Hikmicro. The only difference would be scopes have additional features that you can access, but monoculars will all use a very similar menu system to this now. So that's a good thing at least. Coming up, we take an in-depth look at absolutely everything you can possibly know about remote mounting your thermal. So grab a cold one, kick back and enjoy. We cover all the mounts and brackets on the market for quickly attaching and detaching your thermal from your spotlight or directly to your handle. We go over all the different powering options, including how to wire up 2 switches on your handle so you can turn your light on and off while still powering your thermal. Then we take a look at some of the most popular ways you can mount a tablet or monitor in your ute or buggy. We compare the pros and cons of using your thermal wirelessly to a tablet or hardwiring it to a monitor. This way you can decide which method suits your needs. And lastly, we take a look at different handles and spotlights on the market, discussing some pros and cons of smaller and larger lights, as well as the differences between 12 volt and 24 volt halogen and HID and LED lighting options. If at any point during the review you want to skip through to the segment that you're most interested in, you can take a look in the comments and the description to see where you need to skip to find the information you want. Now we take a look at all the different thermal remote mounting options available. We check out the WGIA brackets that wrap around the back of your light, allowing you to mount your thermal on top of your light. We take a look at the new power beam system, which you can buy the light with a bracket already attached to it, ready to go. Then we take a look at the 4 different smart rest options. That is the single QR mount that goes next to your light, the dual QR mount that allows you to mount your thermal and light off center, the rim top mount that bolts to the top rim of your light, and the QR adapter kit that can be used to make your own bracket or mount directly to your handle. There are pros and cons to all these, so stay tuned to find out which one is right for you. We stock all these products and can get your order to your door within 2 to 4 days Australia-wide. This applies to all products we sell. We price match as well and offer excellent after-sales service, ensuring you get your product at the best price, fast, and get the help you need even after you part with your money. Wild Game Innovations Australia design and make very high quality thermal mounting brackets in Australia. They wrap around the back of the light and allow you to mount the thermal on top. They are designed to be light, strong, and are adjustable to allow you to balance your light and thermal, making even the biggest and heaviest lights easy to operate all night. The majority of lights on the market are not balanced from the factory and will fight you all night, making hard work for your arm, especially when you add a thermal to the mix. The WGIA brackets help solve this problem. Installed in each bracket is a 12 volt / 24 volt converter to power your thermal, so you don't have to worry about changing batteries. You can run a new line to power this or tap into your handle power. However, to be able to control your light independently from your thermal, you will have to do some minor rewiring, which we will cover in this review. Their brackets now have a quick release system that allows you to easily remove your light from the roof. Combine this with some high quality Deutsch connectors and removing your light becomes a breeze. In addition to that, they now have a quick release in the top of the bracket that you can attach to your thermal. This allows for easy attaching and detaching of the thermal from your light. If you don't like their quick release, you can still attach a smaller footprint quick release such as a Smart Rest one. Some people prefer this and it makes it easier to use by hand. Upgrade kits are available for their old brackets, which is awesome. The only brackets that mount a little different are for the firelight spotlights. These will be a two-part system, one bracket for the thermal and one for the spotlight itself. WGIA hasn't stopped there though. You can also get quick releases for your blazer light handle, which allows you to remove your handle easily from inside the cab. Once again, add some Deutsch connectors and you'll be able to remove your light and handle very quickly, keeping the missus and the police off your back. They are also introducing cradles made especially to hold your thermal more sturdily. Great for models that are weird shapes like the Hikmicro Condor. This helps protect your investment by thermally cradling your thermal so it can be remote mounted with confidence. I must say though, we haven't had any issues mounting the Condor yet, so this bracket is more of an extra assurance. WGIA also supply a bung that can be used to run the hardwired cables that won't fit through your handle. You will, however, have to drill an additional hole in your roof for this to work. If you're fitting your handle, light and thermal to a buggy, you will likely need to reinforce the roof to support the weight. WGIA have made these plates, one for the outside and one for inside the cab. All the holes are pre-drilled and they have different plates for different models of handles for ease of installation. You can then run extra cables through the bung, making it a nice, tidy and strong setup. There's plenty more products coming from WGIA in the future, such as wiring and switch management systems that mount on the inside, under your light, and on the roof as well. These kits aim to improve ease of installation and cable management. They are also working on console-style units as well to help with the same problems, but also account for mounting of your screen up higher in your buggy or ute. Not only that, they're working on a wireless switching system that you can integrate into your current light and handle. So it will be interesting to see what else they come out with. Once the new gear is available, we will have them on the website. If you have any issues at all mounting your bracket or doing your wiring, not only can you contact us at Bristle Up, but also Jeff from WGIA. He is very passionate about his products and will help you any way he can. For those short on time, we can fit the bracket to your light and ship it to you, and we can even do installations on site for you. Jeff from WGIA also offers the same services, so if you go to him, he will install the whole thing, the handle, the spotlight, the whole works for you. So if that's a service that you might be interested in, hit us up or make the selection during your checkout. Powerbeam are also releasing a light that has a mount already attached to it. You can't buy it separately just yet, but you can purchase the light with it already attached, ready to go. This compact tidy mount has a thermal charger built into it. You can mount your thermal to it and charge it as well. Coming out of the bottom of the light, we have a positive for the thermal charger and one for the light, so you can still wire up each to their own switch. For mounting the thermal itself, you can use the included Arca mount, attaching it directly to your thermal. This works perfectly fine and it's not going anywhere if you install it correctly. If you prefer the smaller Smart Rest clamp, you can mount that to the Arca rail, allowing you to take advantage of the new Hikmicro molded rails as well. It does, however, lift it up just a bit higher. Some people are concerned about having a thermal above their light and worried about it being knocked off by branches and things like that. I personally have never had this problem, but you might need to adjust your driving style to suit your setup. If you're used to doing some scrub bashing, maybe this is something to think about. The main downsides to this bracket are you won't be able to quickly remove the entire light from your roof like you can with the WGIA brackets. And there's still no out-of-the-box solution for balancing the light yet, so a bit of fiddling may be required to get it nice and balanced. Another benefit to the WGIA bracket is you can set up multiple vehicles with their light quick release and use one light and mount setup for all your vehicles, allowing you to just swap it between them. You can do a similar thing with the power beam lights using the Smart Rest solution, but it's not quite as sturdy and high quality. However, overall, Powerbeam has done a fantastic job on this design, and it is a nice, affordable solution set up, ready to go. So it's definitely worth considering if that's the way you want to go. Eagle Eye make the Smart Rest options. They are simple but effective mounts. They are affordable and have developed 4 different ways to mount your thermal, all with pros and cons. Let's dive in and take a look at each option. The rim top mount is a simple but effective bracket for mounting your thermal to the top of your light. They work with Powerbeam and Light Force lights quite well with no issues we have seen yet. However, any light with a decent size shroud sticking out around the edge can accommodate this mount. Only 2 holes need to be drilled in the shroud to fit the mount, but if you like, you can use 4. But it's really not necessary. You can see with this light here, I've used a few different iterations of this mount installed, so ignore the extra holes. It works quite well, but you will likely have trouble balancing your light. And I wouldn't recommend putting a super heavy thermal on this mount, but the majority of thermals that people are mounting at the moment are perfectly fine. I'd like to quickly note here that this is exaggerated because the power beam light itself isn't balanced. As you can see, it's clearly not centered on the handle. If you take the time to make a bracket, or maybe power beam will release one that'll allow you to move your light further back and center it, this problem can be resolved. You won't see it as bad on other lights like the Light Force. The single QR mount allows you to mount your thermal next to your light by attaching the bar to your remote handle bolt under your light. This works great as a quick, cheap solution, but your light will want to fall to one side all the time, which if you do a lot of spotlighting, this can be annoying and straining on your arm over time. The bar supplied has many mounting holes available, allowing you to adjust your thermal position to the size of your light. As you can see in our display unit here, I've got a weird situation happening where I've joined 2 quick releases together. I do not recommend doing this in a real vehicle. It's just not a good idea. We've just done this for this display to make it easy to remove the light to demonstrate the different mounts. The dual QR mount allows you to mount your thermal on one side and your light on the opposite side in an attempt to better balance the system. This works okay and is better than the single QR mount, but is still not very effective at balancing the light and thermal properly. But with enough messing around, you should be able to get it pretty good. The quick release rail for the light itself is only suitable for the power beam lights. So if you have any other light, you will likely have to bolt it directly to the bar by removing the quick release from one side. Just like the single QR mount, the bar on this one has many holes to position your light and thermal in the ideal spot for balancing, and with enough fine tuning you get a decent result. If you don't need a light and just want to mount your thermal, you can use the Smart Rest QR adapter kit to mount directly to your handle. This does require drilling out the mount hole bigger for many handles, but it will fit onto all handles available. There, however, is a higher mount suitable for the Fire Stick, so if you do have a Firelight handle, you should be looking to buy the higher QR adapter kit. On the blazer light handle, you will need to cut the head off the bolt so it is double threaded and use a nut to attach it to the handle. Or you could get some fully threaded rod. We will try to provide these extra parts in the future to make it easier for people. For now, you may need to do some DIY work. Almost all these brackets work with window mounted light setups, but what I would recommend is going with a smaller 7-inch power beam or 170mm light force, either in halogen or HID. That's if you want to mount to a window remote handle system. This keeps the weight down and you really don't need a big light when you have a thermal anyways. We're seeing a trend towards smaller lights. They are becoming more and more popular. Let's take a look at the quick release that all these mounts use. This lightweight quick release has a very small footprint, which is great for those wanting to still use their device by hand comfortably by quickly removing it from the roof. In fact, I use a WGIA mount on my setup and attach this quick release to the top of it because I still prefer this small footprint. WGIA has improved the use by hand ability of their quick release, but I still prefer this one for my use case. One of the biggest benefits to using a smart rest rail system is being able to have access to the charging ports on a lot of thermals that have the port underneath, something that you can't do with majority of other quick releases. Now there are pros and cons for using this quick release. I find it becomes discolored quickly in the sun, and if you don't regularly lubricate the mechanism, it will rust and seize up much quicker than you would expect. In addition, this washer behind the lever wears out over time. So you will have to replace this quick release fairly often, could be every few months or every year or two, depending on how you take care of it. They are cheap and easy to replace though, so it's not a deal breaker for me. Eagle Eye are aware of these issues and are aiming to improve it in the next version of the quick release. Hikmicro has now made rails that offer more support for their thermals when remote mounted. They mold around the thermal more, giving multiple points of contact with a hard rubber lining for better support. These are a new release, but so far appear to be a good improvement on the standard flat rails. The best part is they will fit into the current Smart Rest clamping system or QR adapters, which is bloody awesome. Hikmicro is making different rails for each thermal model and currently have a rail to suit the Condors and a different rail to fit the Falcons and Lynx units. Alternatively, if you want a solid quick release solution that has some protection from sticks and branches as well, check out the light aluminium brackets from WGIA. Another option for those out there that don't want to put a hole in your roof and instead want a complete wireless solution, the Spider Bots from Eagle Eye are worth checking out. There is a few models to choose from, but essentially it's the same concept. It magnetizes to your roof or bonnet, your thermal attaches to it, and you control it wirelessly from within the cab. It's a great solution and they are currently working on a brand new model that is going to be even better than the last one, so keep your eye out for that. There are many different ways to power your thermal so you don't have to switch batteries throughout the night. We sell all these options on our website ready to go, so don't forget to support us to continue doing these reviews. By simply buying some stuff off us, you really help support us into the future. The most simplest thing you can do is plug a long USB-C power cable into your car's cigarette lighter and chuck it out the window and plug it into your thermal. If you do this though, zip tie the cable off to the light so if someone jerks it, then it won't damage the thermal's ports. You can also install a 4-wheel drive USB port on the headboard or somewhere close to the thermal and run your cable back to it. Another easy option for us lazy folks is to get a waterproof 10,000 or 20,000 milliamp night core power bank. Slap some super strong Velcro on the power bank and a bit somewhere on or near your roof. for example behind your light. Then run the cable from your thermal back to the power bank. That will give you 8 to 20 hours of runtime depending on your thermal and the power bank you chose. Now we move on to the more involved methods. They're still pretty simple but do require some work. If you have a Wild Game Innovations Australia bracket, you will already have a 12 volt / 24 volt converter with a USB-C plug to go to your thermal. If you don't have a WGIA bracket, we do recommend getting one, or you can buy just the converter from us and fit it to your current bracket using Velcro or 3M tape. The tricky part is getting power to the converter while also allowing you to turn your light on and off separately to your thermal's power. If you hook it directly up to your spotlight, then it will only power your thermal while the spotlight's turned on, which defeats the purpose of having a thermal in the first place. So here is what you can do. Turn both the wires going through your remote handle into positives. I do not advise removing the wires and putting new ones in, as this can be a quite painful job. Instead, turn both the black and red wires into positive lines, each going to their own switch. In my demonstration setup here, I have put the 2 red lines in. This is to reduce confusion while showing you how it works. Then you have a negative wire going to a bolt in your handle, supplying your earth to both your thermal and your light on the roof. Alright, we're going to quickly run through how to wire up your light with 2 switches, one to power your thermal and one to power your light. Now firstly, you have your positive and negative coming from the battery. We'll take a look at the negative first. The negative will go to a bolt on your handle and carry the negative through to the roof, where you can split it into 2, and one negative will go to your light and one negative will go to your thermal power. Let's take a look at the positive coming from the battery. It'll go to your first switch and you'll double it up and bunny hop it to your second switch. This will create power in on both switches and make them live. When either switch is turned on, the power will travel through the switch and into the 2 positive wires going to the roof. These 2 positives travel through your handle up onto your roof. Then you'll have a positive to go to your converter for your thermal power and a positive going to your light. This will allow you to control the thermal with one switch and your light with the other switch. Alternatively, you can run a new line directly to your converter from your battery, so it has its own power supply separate to your spotlight. Alright guys, that's the main methods used to supply permanent power to the thermal while you have it remote mounted. Now you could always just simply swap the batteries out if you have replaceable batteries for your thermal throughout the night. If you have internal batteries, but this can be a big problem as you'll have to remove the thermal to charge it. Another option is available for power beam handles. They recently released upgrade kits with a larger tube to be able to carry more cables through the handle itself. I'm told new handles will come with this by default. This means you can put the 2 positive wires and earth wire through the handle itself, giving you another method for wiring up your thermal and light to separate switches. We are also doing the same thing with blazer light handles, and we'll have 3 cables through it out of the box for your convenience. Though I do still think using one of your handle bolts as an earth is just as effective solution for this problem. Let's start by taking a look at the different ways you can mount a tablet in your vehicle. This applies to both buggies and utes. The best mounts we have found are the Ram mounts. They are the most reliable, and a lot of their parts are interchangeable and perfectly designed for our use case. The most complicated thing to learn about Ram mounts is the sizing system. All parts come in sizes A through to E, with the most common ones used for our purposes being B and C sizes. The thing to understand is B size parts do not work with C size parts, and so on. As long as you understand that, you can't go wrong. By far the best mounts for holding your tablet are the X-grip mounts. There is a cradle option as well, but it's not universal and doesn't adjust its size as per the tablet shape properly. These X grips can be used with all the mounting methods we will discuss here. They do have some different sizing options for different sizes of tablets, but essentially you have one for the larger tablets and then a slightly different design for the smaller tablets. The most common way to mount your tablet is using this X grip dual suction window mount. Now you can get a single version of this and a triple version. We have found the single isn't reliable enough and the triple is overkill. The dual works perfectly. These suction cups can be replaced, but you should rarely have to replace them. It's good to know you can if needed though. With all the RAM mount systems, you have the option between the 1-inch B-size balls and arms or the 1.5-inch C-size balls and arms. The bigger arms can offer more stability, but for most people are not needed. You can also get longer and shorter arms in both B and C sizes. That is, if you need to extend your screen out further or drop it down lower. If you don't have a window but have a nice flat surface, you can combine your window mount with these sticky pads, and these are very strong. If you clean the surface properly and apply them correctly, they're not going anywhere. You can still remove them with a hairdryer if you ever need to though. If you have a curved surface that you want to mount to, we have these RAM mounts adhesive size B balls that you can mount your X grip to. These are not, however, available in the bigger size balls. They are much stronger than you might think, and if you want to have extra support, you can even use two of these next to each other going to your X grip using B-size arms. This is a great non-permanent option for mounting to the dash in your car or buggy. You can also screw down the RAM mounts using the round base that comes with the B-size or C-size balls. They have 7 holes to choose from, and this method works quite well in buggies, ATVs, and even in your ute. Some people use this method to screw to the vehicle frame near the revision mirror in some vehicles. You can even use this in a double arm configuration with either B-size parts or bigger C-size parts. You screw down both bases, which goes back to your arms and then to your X grip, creating the most stability possible. This is overkill though, and only for true enthusiasts. We have U-clamp options available as well. A single U-clamp for the B-size arms that you can clamp onto a bar from 13mm up to 32mm, and a double U-clamp for the C-size arms that can clamp onto a bar from 25 to 32mm. Most people will opt for the screw down or bolt down option over this one, but this can be a good option for ATVs, buggies, and maybe your shooting bar for those that have drop down windscreens. We also have these hose clamp style mounts that are great for the bigger bar work you see in a lot of buggies. They wrap around the bar and can be tightened up for a firm fit to hold your tablet or monitor. There are 2 main styles of these hose clamps, both available in B and C sizes. One has a much larger clamp than the other, but I guess you could cut them to size. They also come with a rubber sleeve you can cut to size and slide over the clamp. However, all of these mounts would fit the biggest buggy bar work I have seen, so just pick the one that is most suitable for your application. Next we have something a bit different, the X grip flexi arm setup. This one can mount to the bolt on the floor or your seat in your buggy or ute. A long bendable, quite solid aluminium bar extends from it up in front of you. It mounts using B-size arms, but it works better than you might think, and we have a few people using these, but it's personally not my preference. Moving on, let's take a look at the mounting options for monitors. There are only 2 serious options available to those wanting to go hardwired. The best way to mount a monitor is using a Visa mount. This bolts to the 4 holes on the back of the monitor and only supports the bigger C-size balls and other parts. Monitors can be dual suction window mounted, much the same as tablets, but as stated, only work with C-size parts, which isn't a bad thing. C-size parts are bigger and can hold more weight. You can also use the adhesive suction cups if you have a flat surface to stick to, just the same as in the tablet scenario. But you can't use the flexible adhesive mount as it's only available in B-size balls at the time of filming. Monitors can also be mounted using the larger C-size double U-clamp mount, which is able to clamp to a bar 25mm to 32mm in diameter. You can also use the hose clamp options in the C-size if you would like to go to a bigger bar in a buggy. Lastly, monitors can be screwed down or bolted down much the same as the tablet option using the C-size round base plate. You have 7 holes you can choose from to attach it to a part of your vehicle or something you have designed yourself. Well, that covers just about all the options we have discovered so far for mounting both tablets and monitors in your vehicle. If we do find some other additional ways, we will have them available on our website. Remote wireless setups work by creating a local Wi-Fi network between your thermal and a phone or tablet. Your thermal would be mounted on the roof of your vehicle or on a window-mounted remote handle. Meanwhile, the tablet or phone is mounted inside the cab. Thankfully, you do not require phone reception for this to work. There are pros and cons, however. The good things are you can quickly mount it, you don't need to run cables, and switching between different vehicles is easy. You can also control the thermal settings from within the cab, record, zoom in and out, change color palettes, and much more. A lot of tablets these days are waterproof already or have waterproof cases available, which is another benefit for the wireless method. However, not all thermals perform well wirelessly. Image quality degradation can occur, sometimes not so bad, but sometimes unusable on many models. Interference from devices in your vehicle can cause lagging and glitching, particularly on models that use 2.4 GHz Wi-Fi, which is 99% of all thermals at the time of filming. In most cases, this is related to the stereo system, particularly in Hiluxes and Land Cruisers. To get a good result, you may have to remove the fuse for the stereo or install a switch to cut power to it. Unfortunately, turning the stereo off will not help. We did do another longer in-depth video on this issue. You may want to look that up. We expect to see more and more thermals using 5 GHz instead of 2.4 GHz in the future, which appears to solve the interference problems. But for now, we have very few options. I use thermals wirelessly. It's my preferred method, and I get really good, reliable results. You just need to be aware of the potential problems and buy a model that suits wireless mounting. That's one of the benefits from buying from us, is getting good, up-to-date advice. Hardwired systems use cables to carry the video signal to a monitor. Sadly, you can't hardwire to a tablet, at least at this time. There, however, is talk that some brands are going to try and introduce the ability to hardwire to a tablet. Let's hope that this does indeed happen. The pros to this are you can get the absolute best image quality possible, you remove any chance for interference and lagging, it's also more affordable and reliable. The cons are you have to run cables for power and video signal. These cables can become damaged and need replacing from time to time. If they are not installed correctly, they can also wear away the ports in your thermal, which then will require repair from your manufacturer. We have had this happen from time to time on some units. This seems to be very rare, but it does happen. You also can't control the thermal from the monitor, so recording and zooming is not possible. There is a workaround for this on some models. You can connect your thermal hardwired to a monitor for video signal and connect your phone to the Wi-Fi at the same time. This way you can use your phone like a remote control. Another problem is monitors are not waterproof, and currently there are no good options to protect them when in use in buggies. You have to either take the monitor down until the rain passes or cover the screen with a big sandwich bag or something similar to give it a bit of protection. Many brands and models use different specially made cabling to allow the video output from the thermal to the monitor. We have been doing kits for these for over 2 years now that suit Hikmicro, Infrared, Thermtech, Guide, Nighttech, Leica, and many more. Some work very similar and others are quite different indeed. There are two main ways different models of thermals use to output video to a monitor. Number 1. Using a specially designed splitter cable made to suit your model of thermal. This allows you to split the cable into two from the USB port on the thermal. This creates a separate cable for the video signal and one for power. You can either have the splitter cable on the thermal end of the setup and run two cables inside the cab, or you can run a single cable into the cab and split it inside the cab. If you have the splitter cable inside the cab, you can have charging issues and static show up on the screen depending on the thermal model you're using. It also depends how long of a cable that you're using to extend the USB-C port. If it's really long, the issue can be more exaggerated. But generally speaking, it's usually more reliable to split it on the thermal end of the setup. In addition to this, some thermals do not allow you to power the thermal while it's hardwired. So it's important to consider this when making your purchase. Another benefit of splitting the line on the thermal end of your setup is you can power the thermal via a different power source on the roof, such as a 12 volt / 24 volt converter connected to your light power. That way you only need to run the video cable into the cab, and this removes any potential charging or display issues from doing it the other way. Number 2. Some thermals like the Infrared Finder series have a separate video output, usually a HDMI port. This allows you to have a high quality HDMI cable carry the video signal to your monitor, all while powering the thermal using the USB-C port. Keep in mind, I have not been able to see a massive difference in image quality between using HDMI or using the USB-C method. Where we do see some quality differences is in the quality of the monitor used. We have many different types and sizes of monitors ranging from 7-inch up to 13 inches. We have models suited to infrared finders and models suited for the other brands. Most people go with the 10-inch, but if you want a truly big screen experience, the 13 inches is impressive viewing. But it also takes up a lot of space in the cab. We hope this helps you decide whether wireless or hardwired is better for you. I do hope you will come over to the website or visit our shop and support us. Once again, we do price match and we can have your order delivered to you within 2 to 4 days Australia-wide in 99% of cases. Let's discuss the different handles. Blazerlight has been one of the most widely used handles among harvesters and professionals now for decades. They're made right here in Australia and are affordable as well. Out of all the handles on the market, they have the most options available, varying in length and features to what you want to use it for. Shorter ones more suited to buggies, some with fold-up features and some without. You can get parts for them easily and they are comfortable to use. There's multiple holes in the handle itself, which allows you to add more than one switch so you can control the power to your light and your thermal separately. Overall, a fantastic handle. The Firelight handles are the only ready-to-go fully wireless system on the market that, once set up, can allow you to spin your light all the way around without tangling up the wires. They work great and are a good option for those hunting from utes, but they don't offer a shorter handle for buggies at this stage. The wireless system will work with all the lights on the market, not just the firelight ones, which is a bonus. Not only that, they also sell spare parts. Without modification though, it can be hard to wire up a second switch to control your thermal separate to the light. However, there is a solution in the works to solve this problem. The PowerBeam RC500 handles are another popular option. They work with all lights on the market and have a strong, sturdy design, with a nice locking mechanism at the top. They come in two configurations, the original long handle, or you can remove the middle section and mount it directly to the top part of the handle to make a short option. It's important to note that if you are using a big light or a thermal and light combination, having a too short of a handle can make the system hard to balance and operate. The longer the handle usually means the better leverage you will have, so it's about finding the right balance. You can also easily add a second switch by drilling an additional hole in the handle, allowing you to control power to your light separate from the thermal. Overall, it's a great handle option with spare parts available as well. As for spotlights, we stock PowerBeam, Light Force, Firelight and Blazer Light spotlights. They all have their pros and cons, but the biggest thing to keep in mind, if you are using thermal, you're unlikely to use your light as much unless you're shooting under light a significant amount of the time. So if you don't plan on using your light very often, I'd get one of the smaller PowerBeam 7 inches or Light Force 170mm lights, or even the 240mm Light Force as well. Even though it's a bit bigger, it's still very light due to its plastic construction. Another smaller option is the LED spotlight from Blazer Light. Though there is limited mounting options to attach your thermal to it, it's still worth considering. I use one of these for years and it's not the brightest light, but it works just fine. I'd avoid the bigger, heavier lights like the 9-inch and the 11-inch power beams. These are mostly unnecessary with the introduction of thermals into the market. If you want a lightweight but still pretty bright light, consider going a 24-volt Firelight spotlight. They have a very nice wide, bright beam that turns on instantly. The drawback, however, is they are not suitable for buggies in most cases, as the amp draw is quite high. You can run them in 12 volt instead if you like. It won't be as bright but will work just fine. The next thing to consider is the type of technology to go with. Halogen 12 volt, halogen 24 volt, HID or even LED. Well, if you want instant light with no warm up, go 12 volt or even 24 volt halogen. The color produced by these lights tends to make it easier to identify animals than with many of the HID or LED options. Now, the 24 volt option offers better distance at the expense of high amp draw. You will have to change bulbs on halogen systems from time to time though. If you want longer lasting bulbs and brighter than 12 volt halogen experience and have lower amp draw, consider going HID. Keep in mind the warm-up time can be a little annoying if you are not using the light much throughout the night. As for LED, if you want instant turn on with low amp draw and decent brightness, plus long-lasting bulbs, the Blazer Light one is worth checking out. I personally have found the 12 volt halogen